Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about climate change. So, what is climate change? Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Such shifts can be natural due to changes in the sun's activity or large volcanic eruptions. But since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generate greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the earth, trapping the sun's heat and Rising temperatures. The main greenhouse gases that are causing climate change include carbon dioxide and methane. These come from using gasoline for a driving car or coal for heating a building. For example, clearing land and cutting down forests can also release carbon dioxide. Agriculture, oil, and gas operations are major sources of methane emissions. Energy industry, transport, buildings, agriculture, and land use are among the main sectors causing greenhouse gases. Humans are responsible for global warming. Climate scientists have shown that humans are responsible for virtually all global heating over the last 200 years. Human activities like the ones mentioned above are causing greenhouse gases that are warming the world faster than at any time in at least the last 2,000 years. The average temperature of the Earth's surface is now about 1.2 Celsius, warmer than it was in the late 1800s before the Industrial Revolution, and warmer than at any time in the last 1,000 years. The last decade, 2011 and 2020, was the warmest on record, and each of the last 4 decades has been warmer than any previous decade since 1850. Many people think climate change mainly means warmer temperatures, but temperature rise is only the beginning of the story. Because the Earth is a system where everything is connected, changes in one area can influence changes in all others. The consequences of climate change now include, among others, intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, rising sea levels, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. People are experiencing climate changes in diverse ways. Climate change can affect our health, ability to grow food, housing, safety, and work. Some of us are already more vulnerable to climate impacts, such as people living in small island nations and other developing countries. Conditions like sea level rise and saltwater intrusion have advanced to the point where whole communities have had to relocate, and protracted droughts are putting people at risk of famine. In the future, the number of people displaced by weather related events is expected to rise. Every increase in global warming matters. In a series of UN reports, thousands of scientists and government reviewers agreed that limiting global temperature rise to no more than 1.5 Celsius would help us avoid the worst climate impacts and maintain a livable climate. Yet, policies currently in place point to 3 Celsius temperature rise by the end of the century. The emissions that cause climate change come from every part of the world and affect everyone. But some countries produce much more than others. The seven biggest emitters alone: China, the United States of America, India, the European Union, Indonesia, the Russian Federation, and Brazil, accounted for about half of all global greenhouse emissions in 2020. Everyone must take action, but people and countries creating more of the problem have a greater responsibility to act first. We face a huge challenge but already know many solutions. Many climate change solutions can deliver economic benefits while improving our lives and protecting the environment. We also have global frameworks and agreements to guide progress, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the Paris Agreement. Three broad categories of actions are cutting emissions, adapting to climate impacts, and financing required adjustments. Switching energy systems from fossil fuels to renewables like solar or wind will reduce the emissions driving climate change. But we have to act now. While a growing number of countries is committed to net zero emissions by 2050, emissions must be cut in half by 2030 to keep warming below 1.5 Celsius. Achieving this means huge declines in the use of coal, oil, and gas. Over two-thirds of today's proven reserves of fossil fuels need to be kept in the ground by 2050 in order to prevent catastrophic levels of climate change. Adapting to climate consequences protects homes, businesses, livelihoods, infrastructure, and natural ecosystems. It covers current impacts and those likely in the future. Adaptation will be required everywhere, but must be prioritized now for the most vulnerable people with the fewest resources to cope with climate hazards. The rate of return can be high. Early warning systems for disasters, for instance, saves lives and property and can deliver benefits up to 10 times the initial cost. We can pay the bill now or pay dearly in the future. Climate action requires significant financial investments by governments and businesses, but climate inaction is vastly more expensive. One critical step is for industrialized countries to fulfill their commitment to provide $100 billion a year to developing countries so they can adapt and move toward greener economies. Okay, so what is one way that I can help in one way that we can stop climate change from my home, from my homes, from me. So one way is to you drive a car, try to keep a schedule, avoid maybe doing an extra drive somewhere unless it's absolutely necessary. You can use public transportation if that will help. Another way is you can, if you can go to your job in a bicycle, use the bicycle. You can use an electric scooter. There are many things that you can use to avoid the impact, because remember, your car uses gas, and that gas is released into the air, so that is harming the world. It releases CO2, which is the greenhouse effect, and it makes the world warmer. So that's a way we can reduce the emissions of CO2. Also, at home, there's no reason to leave things plugged. Remember that electricity is always running, so sometimes having those electrical technologies plugged are also bad for your health. So unplugging them at night is very important to do, because when they're plugged, they are also releasing all that energy into the environment. So another way of helping is unplugging all that, and you also pay less on your bills because the energy is not there, it's turned off. So even when it's plugged, the energy is going through. So that's another way. Also, I've in my home, we have used solar panels for showers, and they work marvelous. The only thing is that you have to maintain them. You have to clean them every year so that they keep functioning well. So it's something that you need to invest in. But the good thing is you don't have to pay gas, you don't have to pay any heat, anything, because it's all from the sun. It all comes from the sun. And we were 4 members in my family, and there was sufficient water. We had a big tank, and it was sufficient for the four of us. There would even be leftovers. So if you can use solar panels, change to solar panels, and you can put them in your home, then that's another way. What else? There are many things we can do. And I want to remind you that you are not getting your intake of protein and vitamins from vegetables and fruit, because since the CO2 is in the air, the photosynthesis of the plants is so much faster that it's producing fruit super fast, but in that process it's losing its nutrient. So you get a fruit that doesn't have the same amount of nutrient that it did before. So you're not feeding yourself well, so there can be a problem with your nutrition. So let's find ways in which we can help the environment, because this is real. If you look around, many things are just wasting away, buildings, because the environment is just so bad. So let's find a way, let's find ways to help the environment. I got this from the United Nations. I will post the link on the description below. So I encourage you, you can always teach your kids. Kids are teachable. So if you have plastic, you can recycle your plastic. Remember, by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the sea. So let's find ways, because we only have one planet and we need to preserve it so people can, in the future, can live in this planet as much life as it has. So let's find ways of helping the environment. And this is a reality now, so let's try to reach the goals by 2050 to reduce the emissions of CO2 in the air and methane as well. As you know, industrialized countries have their big emissions, so governments as well, we need to push for greener policies so that we can achieve this in much more from factories who can use greener maybe greener techniques to their labor, to their work. So let's try to think green. I encourage you to do that. If you feel like you're not doing well with your diet and you're not getting the full nutrition of the food, of your daily intake of food, take seeds, eat seeds. They will help you have more energy. So I leave you with that, and just think about this. And if you want to help, you can do this. And let's find greener ways to help and save the planet. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.